It seems I won't be able to look away from the latest interview that Kelly Cutrone gave at Girls Disrupted. This is a podcast by two girls. One is an influencer, the other one is a writer. I just discovered it because I had a lot of friends who sent me this specific TikTok here.
I'm a fashion person. I spent my whole life in the fashion industry. And while it's very, very easy to take like corrugated, clippy content, do you know anything about the fashion business?
Yeah.
Do you know about factories? Do you know about ateliers? Do you know about the brands? Do you know about the history of the brands? Do you know where they're at? Do you know about corsetry? Do you know what goes into making a look? And guess what? Same thing to the stylist, which is like, I'm a style architect. I would have never done that stuff in my 20s and 30s. Like I said, I'm 59. Like I've spent my whole life in the fashion industry. It doesn't mean that that's not funny. It's not important, that it doesn't have its place. Sure, it does.
Yeah.
But don't think because you cut these videos that you're seen as a fashion person.
Yeah, and you don't
you
know
are
everything.
not.
You don't know who Kelly Cutrone is. She's the founder of People's Revolution, one of the most influential PR agencies, specifically like from the 2000s until the 2010s. But what really made her a household name, it's the Hills and later on the City. These were two MTV shows, reality shows.
I have a rule that there's no crying in the office. If you have to cry, go outside, okay? And if you're sensitive and somebody hurts your feelings, I don't give a This is not group therapy, so get over it. We're not really mean, but we'll say mean things to you for sure. So just know, if you're crying or you're having a bad day and you've been knocked around, the best thing to do is to come back. Some days just suck. And if I stopped this business every time somebody said something mean to me or I felt bad or I felt like I was losing everything, I wouldn't have been in business more than a month, okay?
First of all, this is an interview that is an hour long almost, and I do want to invite you to actually listen to the whole episode. I'm going to link it below. I think it's very, like, she has a very interesting story, personal story, and she actually talks about her personal journey way more than she actually talks about her career, about influencers, and like, you know, we're actually just like pinpointing like those 5 minutes in the interview where she talks about these things, but it's actually 45 minutes of the rest, and I think it's extremely interesting to hear her story and maybe to understand a little bit more also like her point of view. I personally just knew her in fashion and for her work. I didn't know anything about her personally, and it was definitely like heartbreaking to hear some of her stories. But we're gonna focus on two specific points from this interview. These shows were following the life of some girls, starting from Laguna Beach. Some of them moved to LA and then some moved to New York. They were at the time, you know, trying to find their place in the world, like going to university or going for some internships. Some of them ended up working with Kelly Cutrone at People's Revolution, where we can actually get a glimpse of Kelly Cutrone's character, who she is, what she does, and really her very strong personality. She definitely comes off like this very respected yet very feared boss. One of her most famous quotes is, "If you have to cry, go outside." She even has a book titled this way, which is more of like a, I don't know, like a self-help book of some sort. She's a little bit the epitome of that fashion person, you know, like from early 2000s, like chain smoking, wearing only black, being extremely mean to her interns. A little bit of a real life Miranda Presley, if that makes sense, but like without the stylist. Her unhinged personality on reality television is really what made her worldwide famous, I would say. And then she even got her own series. I think it was just like 8 episodes.
I'm expecting you to be able to pull together what the needs for the client are going to be.
I know.
Okay?
Well, I'll make sure this is a priority. I'm exhausted and overworked, and everyone works their ass off People's Revolution. There's just no way to out the cake. We're like a little fashion sweatshop.
Tell me your list of things. I'm a good delegator.
I know, and that's the thing is I've had to take care of all this other stuff just because it's not getting done, and I've been trying to have interns help me, and like...
Alita, what are you doing to help her? Because that's what you're supposed to be doing, and she's doing a lot of your work.
Like, I'm doing most of it. I'm on top of
Okay, I just want to make this really clear, just about seniority here. I see a lot of girls that are like dressed pretty and running around, and I see the senior team really, really struggling. And you seem real happy and healthy, and we don't. And it should be the other way around, frankly, in my book. You guys should be the tired ones, and we should be on our way to lunch. But that's not what's going on here, all right? Sure. I really don't need one of my girls getting burnt out like this, doing basic.
Watching the hills, but I would say more specifically the city, it was really like something I was looking forward to as a child. It was really something that I would wait for so much. I was obviously romanticizing this like fashion lifestyle in New York through the girls' experiences. Although I have to say it did feel quite posing in a way, it did feel quite fake. Besides those scenes where Kelly Cutrone was actually in it, and I think this was an amazing PR strategy for her to like, you know, like build herself as this like larger than life character, like larger than life fashion person that knows her shit, and she's like very you know, she's very feared. And I mean, these were really the Devil Wears Prada times. So I do think the cultural currency at the time for someone in fashion was to actually be perceived as the mean girl, but it's almost like a built-up character, because I don't think that actually Kelly Cutrone is the mean girl and she's being mean just to be mean. For sure, her overall like attitude of like this tough love triggers me. Like I really feel like my mom is in the room or something. So I do feel triggered by her behavior, but it does feel more of a facade. And then underneath you would actually see, even in the city already or in the hills, like even in these shows on MTV, you could actually see that she was trying to like teach something. She was trying to like help you build that thicker skin layer that you actually need to survive those times in the industry, but even like today in today's industry. But I do think that she really felt real, in contrast with the other characters, especially the main characters in the city, where you would have you know, like Whitney, then you would have Olivia, and they were really these like very cool, beautiful, like all put together girls that were doing like these internships, like they were looking like models basically. But then here enters Kelly Cutrone, like who looks like she hasn't brushed her hair. She's like super rough. She's like always enhancing how busy she is in the shows. So she would say things like, "Oh yeah, I just have to like answer 700 emails this morning." So like, you know, she's like playing around this character, in my opinion. Just for example, saying very specific things, writing very specific polarizing things, saying a quote like, "If you have to cry, go outside." This is shock value. This is a shock value quote. You know you're gonna be quoted on that. You know this is gonna have an effect. But at the same time, she was the one person who was actually speaking the truth in that scene. She was the one telling these 20-something-year-olds, you know, either you're building a thicker skin or you're not gonna be able to make it here. I know you guys double screen TFA, so do let me know what is the main activity that you're doing right now. Are you running? Some of you are studying while listening to this, which I find confusing but interesting. Let me know what you're doing while you're listening to my rant about Kelly Cutrone. Okay, so Kelly Cutrone is an anti-influencer, like a declared anti-influencer, which is her opinion and it's fine. But also, let's not forget that influencers exist because we are interested in what they're doing. We built influencers, you know, and now we hate on them. And it's like, what's fascinating to me, it's like Frankenstein. So the other day I watched the Frankenstein, the movie on Netflix, and I know I'm a little bit late to the game, but I just like, honestly, like 2 hours and a half to watch a movie, I just found like it was too long. So I had to like watch it in pieces. Anyways, the story is, I mean, all of you guys probably know the story of Frankenstein, but just a little bit of summary. So basically, there's a guy, he builds Frankenstein, this like monster, right? And then he tries to destroy it because it's actually stronger, better, and indestructible, way more than actually he had planned when he was building it. And it really helps me to build this metaphor around influencers being our Frankenstein monster, because they would not exist if we wouldn't want them to exist, if we wouldn't be interested in what they're doing, if we wouldn't buy what they're selling, right? So for sure, influencers have found a gap in the market. I'm not saying in the fashion industry, because this is also what Kelly Cutrone keeps saying, you know, like they're not fashion experts, they haven't worked in fashion, they don't really know anything about fashion, but they do expect to benefit from the system of the fashion industry. So basically the scientist is obsessed with, you know, creating this whole like monster, this like superhuman monster. Then he builds it and he hates it because it's cooler than him, it's stronger than him, it's better than him. But then at the same time, they kind of like make peace in the end and realize that they are two faces of the same truth. And this is like so much how society and influencers are related today. I think like also what she says, that influencers are like have never worked in the industry, they're not fashion experts, but they say they are. This is something that I would agree with if this was like 2010, 2012, and we would like maybe have those times, those early like influencer like era of Chiara Ferragni, who by the way she calls Chiara Ferragamo, which I found funny because I do believe she has seen that name before. She also has Italian origins. I do believe she remembers that name, and I find it a little bit denigrating to like not say that that name properly. And this happens, like you can immediately smell when someone hates someone by like they're trying to like mispronounce their name, or just saying like, oh yeah, that one girl there, like, you know, that one girl, like what is her name, like Amelie, yeah, you know how to read a name, it's Amelie. Like come on, it's like the most fucking common name in the world. Like this is such a passive aggressive move, like come on. What she said, that influencers are not, you know, like they have never worked in fashion, I think this was something that you could have easily said maybe like at the beginning of the influencer business. But I feel like right now, especially like if I have to look at like fashion commentators and fashion critics, most of them actually come from positions in fashion. Some of them are journalists, some of them were designers, were having their own brand, some of them were working in PR or like at big companies, then they quit their job and they started to do TikToks. So I feel like it's not as like separated. I think she's mixing up a little bit like the influencer with like the fashion critic, and I mean, for sure she hates both. But what Chiara Ferragamo was doing, it's very different from like the average fashion critic that she mentions, that, you know, has her little mic and the little camera and does little clips. I think it's just like now it's more divided, and you cannot anymore put everyone under the same umbrella. The business is evolving, creators are evolving, and so many people who worked in fashion are working in fashion. They're actually also doing content online. I just think like the business has evolved and it keeps evolving. We don't even know when and how and where this is gonna end, and if it's gonna end, you know, but it's beautiful to see the evolution of it. Something that really fascinates me in fashion, it's actually the business behind it, and it's what I studied, so, and also the roles that I had. Let's watch a second clip of the same interview where she talks about something different, but kind of like we can put it under the same umbrella.
So a couple months ago, this girl came on TikTok, and she had worked in PR at, I think, Louis Vuitton, and she had posted this video on TikTok. She had like no followers at the time. She had posted this video of herself ranting, and it was like, why are the New York City influencers so f***ing boring? All they do is wear Revolve, and they go to the same Pilates classes, and they're so boring. Where are all the cool girls? As a result, the video like went so viral.
From Vuitton?
She got fired.
Of course, I would fire her too. Like, who are you? You're my employee.
Yeah,
you can't be like
so right.
flexing. Like, you want to be an influencer, like get your own wings and fly out into the middle of the desert.
So she was talking about a specific person that I guess Louis Vuitton had worked with.
When you're an employee of Louis Vuitton, you don't have the right to speak about Louis Vuitton unless Louis Vuitton has bestowed the right to speak on behalf of the brand.
It's unprofessional.
That usually is
Unprofessional, yeah.
really unprofessional.
Exactly what she says struck to me because it made me think about like also fashion criticism, because when she says like, you know, you don't have any fashion expertise to like be talking about fashion and like be critical about fashion, but at the same time how she says that you're a Louis Vuitton employee, you cannot be talking about Louis Vuitton, which, okay, I get it, but at the same time, if you're a critic and you work for a publication, that publication is paid by ads. So brands are paying ads to be showcased in your publication. Therefore, you will never be able to be free in your critic, in your opinion in regards to that specific fashion house. Therefore, aren't influencers more free to actually be, aren't fashion critics with their like microphone and their like little clips online, aren't they more free to actually just be critics than like your average fashion writer who works like for your publication? This brings me to the fact that under the umbrella of influencers there are so many like categories now that you just cannot be bluntly generalizing, in my opinion. Fashion critics, fashion commentators, they're really becoming their own media platform. Think of Bliss Foster, which is someone we all love and know and support. So this is someone who has built his career up and he's learning and he's studying and he does so much research, and his videos are like probably the best well-researched essays, you know, on the internet that you can find. The edits are even crazy. They're so good. So if we take him as a case study, he has built a media platform, okay? So he's his own media, which means that in his own media, he's actually way more free to talk about what he wants, to say about what he wants, because he's not supported by fashion houses, he's not paid by fashion houses. I do feel like sometimes influencers / fashion commentators, they're really way more free in being themselves, in like saying what they want. And you know what, I feel like the fashion criticism has like really found the gap on the market because magazines were not able to fill that gap, to fill the gap of like, give me a cool, good review, well-researched, a cool report, nice analysis for this specific fashion collection. And because fashion houses were not doing that anymore, then fashion critics online found, or like influencers, they found this gap on the market that they could actually fill. But hey, welcome back to the Fashion Archives. And if you're new here, where the fuck have you been? Don't forget to rate this pod on Spotify specifically, which is the main platform for TFA. Although we're posting on YouTube and Substack, of course, some little like clips on Instagram and TikTok here and there, but Spotify, it's our mama. We are born there and we will stay there until probably the day it dies.